Good morning, everyone. I'm John Ritrick, Vice President of the South Dakota Art Museum Guild, and I would like to welcome all the Guild members and non-Guild members to the last virtual program of 2021. It's been quite a season, and we've had many great programs this year, very much different than we're used to, but it has gained us insight in possible future programs. But today, I am really privileged to have Mary Maxon give the program. She's the director of the Heritage Center at the Red Cloud Indian School, which is located outside of Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Now, I've known Mary for many years. We got to know each other at the Siouxland Heritage Museums in Sioux Falls. And since then, we've connected in various ways in the museum field and so on. But she actually comes originally from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And she has been in the art field, museum field, for many years at Field Museum of Natural History, Siouxland Heritage Museums, the Idaho Museum of Natural History, Rapid City Arts Council, and Dahl Arts Center, and now the Heritage Center. One thing I want to let everyone know that right now the Art Museum has the exhibit, The Governor's Show, and I worked with Mary on the first Governor's Show, and she is the one that really instigated the show. So you can thank Mary for this, all these years now that the Governor's Show has continued. And so, oh, and one more thing I wanted to add is that she's also a horse rancher. So not many people probably know that, but anyway, I'm very pleased to introduce Mary Maxon.
Thank you, John. I was going to tell you all a little bit about myself, but John knows most everything, so now you know. I've been at the Heritage Center for about 11 years now, the director since 2015. And yes, I live on a little ranch with my husband and daughter and way too many horses and dogs and other things. A little about 3 miles west of scenic South Dakota, so at the edge of the Badlands National Park. Anyway, I'm happy to be here today to tell you a little bit about the Heritage Center and the work we do there and the Red Cloud Indian Art Show. So I'm going to try to share my screen so you have some slides. So bear with me a second. Hopefully I do this correctly. So is that slide showing up?
That's good.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Heritage Center, so I'll start there very briefly. It's a long history, so I'm not going to share too much, but it was founded as Holy Rosary Mission in 1888 by the Jesuits at the request of Chief Red Cloud, who was a leader of the Lakota people. And during the formation of the reservation system, the lands were assigned to religious affiliations, primarily Presbyterian and Episcopalian. But Chief Red Cloud, having interacted with De Smet and the other Jesuits, had continually asked the government to allow the Black Robes, the Jesuits, to come to the reservation in order to establish a school. It took about 2 decades of lobbying Congress before founding the mission that we now know as Red Cloud Indian School. Over 130 years later, Red Cloud Indian School, Inc. is actually composed of 3 apostolic missions. the schools, which is 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. The parish, which consists of 6 churches scattered across the reservation, and the Heritage Center. Our main campus, as John said, is located on Highway 18, about 3 miles northwest of the village of Pine Ridge. So if we fast forward about 80 years from the founding of the mission, I'll give you a little history of the Heritage Center itself and why we're here. Father Ted Zern is shown here. He was the president of Holy Rosary Mission in the late 60s and early 70s. And he had worked in reservation classrooms for quite a while before taking on this presidency. And he understood that the Native kids were not really responding very well to the typical classroom teaching methods of that time, but that they would engage much better through arts and storytelling and that kind of activity. So he and Bob Savage, who was a fundraiser from the Omaha area, they thought they needed a way to celebrate the art and artists on the reservation and have that be a part of the educational environment. So in 1968 or 69, we're not really certain, they started the Red Cloud Indian Art Show. The first show is modest and informal, but it accomplished something really groundbreaking by allowing any American Indian 18 years or older to enter. It encouraged young artists just beginning their careers to share their artistic vision alongside more seasoned and professional artists. This approach continues today, building community and sharing amongst the artists, no matter where they may be in their careers. To further the goal of supporting artists and keeping art in native art in Indian country rather than in museums far away. So we all know that most Native peoples need to see their cultural history, the physical pieces. They need to go to New York and Denver or other large museum collections. But the staff at Red Cloud purchased 3 award-winning pieces from that first show, and this one here is by Mary Morez. I'm sorry, I don't know the title of this one, but it was one of those 3 purchases from the first show, and it was the best of show from that first show. Running the show quickly got turned over to Red Cloud's campus bookkeeper, the incomparable brother C.M. Simon S.J. And I don't know how many people here might have known Simon. He was quite a character. But he ran the Heritage Center program until he passed in 2006. And Simon's shown here with Philomene Lakota. We lost Philomene just this last summer, but I really consider her and Simon the matriarch and patriarch of Lakota culture and language work at Red Cloud. Red Cloud recently, Philomene did a lot of work in Lakota language, and recently we actually shifted to full immersion classrooms in kindergarten, and that will proceed until there's immersion learning for all 12 grades. So that's some of the other work that we're doing at Red Cloud. There's a lot going on at Red Cloud, but I'll try to stick to the Heritage Center. Anyway, Simon not only built a significant collection of Native American art that would eventually become the permanent collection of the Heritage Center. As the years passed, he learned more and more about how the world is seen through Lakota eyes. He became a scholar in the field of Native arts and began a tradition of creating formal exhibitions to share throughout the region and the country. He also ran the gift shop, which has since become a strong program in professional development and access to marketplace for many members of the Pine Ridge communities. And so what began with those 3 early pieces, now includes an estimated 10,000 pieces of Lakota and other Native arts, from historic artifacts to cutting edge modern works. And in 1982, the Heritage Center was formed, given a permanent space to protect and grow that collection and to support the work of Brother Simon. And then from 1982 until his passing in 2006, Simon devoted all his considerable talent and energy to building up both the Heritage Center and the Red Cloud Indian Art Show. So working here in a community where arts and art making are essential to the culture, it's simply an integral part of life. Many of our at-home businesses and most of Pine Ridge's businesses are at-home businesses. I think 79% of those are in some form of arts. And we understand that the arts program is central to learning and community support. We have a little tiny but mighty staff, and so I'm really proud of the work that we do together. And this is the whole staff as we see it now. Ashley Poirier, Audrey Jacobs, our educator, and Carmen Ford runs the gift shop. I'm going to show a little video, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share another screen because we've got a little video where Ashley can tell you about the Heritage Center program.
It wasn't until I started working here that I actually got to really dive deep into what is and what makes Native American art. I'm the curator here at the Heritage Center at Red Cloud Indian School. I manage the permanent collection as well, which consists of a 10,000 item piece collection. The permanent collection is divided into subcategories. So we have a historic collection. Our historic pieces range from the late 1800s to 1950s. So it's a very reservation era based historic collection. So you get to see a lot of those trade routes reflected in a lot of the historic pieces as well. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we also, as a collecting institution, we have a very small, moderate budget to continue to grow our permanent collection, purchasing from living artists and getting to support those artists in their career and future endeavors. Along with historic pieces, we also have culturally sensitive items as well. I work with a few of our local community members and spiritual leaders to make sure we do our best to help preserve those spiritually sensitive items to be loved and appreciated for hopefully years to come. The Red Cloud Art Show started in 1968. It started with the foundation to create a visual space, a space for local artists to display their work in a gallery setting and gain those foundational experiences. An experience which is still very true today in the gallery exhibition world, to gain some exposure experience through galleries, museums, other exhibition spaces. There is no juried in process. Everything that is shipped in will be put on display, so it provides a very true and wide skill range of artistry, from emerging artists to world-renowned professional artists. It's a very interesting collaboration to have these two different skill sets of artists come together in this exhibition. From there, we host buying days where artists are allowed to come in with their works and we purchase them straight from the artist with a 20% markup. On these buying days, artists are able to experience a wholesale buying environment and starting to grow their own personal knowledge of how retail sales work. From our gift shop buying, we also have our education program, which works very closely with our collections and our gallery artists as well. Here in the Northern Plains area, very, very, very small hub of artists, collections experts, museum curation people, and we try and work together and build each other up as much as possible.
So through the Heritage Center, our mission is to honor and celebrate a thriving Oglala Lakota culture as part of the broader Red Cloud Indian School efforts towards revitalizing culture through language learning initiatives, the celebration and preservation of Indigenous arts across the generations, and career opportunities for Native artists. we create economic and career opportunities for Native artists and culture barriers across the Northern Plains, as a place for artists and culture bearers to showcase their work in local and national exhibitions, sell their work in our gallery and gift shop, and receive early career coaching, and to teach art to youth at Red Cloud and from visiting schools, and to honestly tourists and other visitors to the reservation. We want to share the arts in all those ways. There was a 2013 study at First Peoples Fund that really showed us how much of the reservation population is dependent on the arts for at least part of their living, right? It's as I said before, the economy on Pine Ridge is a largely home-based economy, and about 79% of those home-based businesses are in some form of the arts. And then that study shows us what the First Peoples Fund study shows us what artists are looking for to assist in that. So, you know, the Heritage Center program, it follows an academic museum program in many ways, but we're not really a museum. First of all, it's called the Heritage Center because we didn't like the word museum in terms of Native population, because the connotation in Native populations of the word museum is treating their culture as a dead culture. In terms of anthropology and ethnography, and not a living, thriving, and very contemporary culture. So we try to shift that around, and we also try to provide that economic element for the artists that we work with. That's part of being a Jesuit mission, right? So we're helping the community. Our permanent collection is one of the world's largest collections of Native arts to be held on tribal lands, and keeping that art in the community that created it. And it allows us to share, the permanent collection gives us this vast treasure of arts, primarily from the late 60s when we started to today, but we also have historic items. We don't actively collect historic pieces, but we accept them basically as in the sense of a repository for the reservation or for the tribal members, because we're the safest place to do it. We are, you know, despite the fact that we're an 1888 building with no sprinkler system and faulty everything, we still are the safest place on the reservation. And then we want the youth at the that we work with, both in the Heritage Center and across the reservation. We want that one-to-one, not even one-to-one, but artists as mentors. So we bring artists into the classroom, into the museum, to interact directly with the students so that they can see artists in the community being creative and making things, and often making a living in many different media and many different approaches, from traditional to very contemporary, so that the kids know that that's a pathway that may appeal to some of those, some of them. It's one of the kind of foundational things that we do is we don't have a lot of art teachers in the school, so that helps that too. And we want the artists also to interact with visitors, so there's opportunities for that. We also create dynamic opportunities for the reservation and visitors from around the world to explore Indigenous history, tradition, and culture through the lens of Native art. Lakota families can trace their family lineage and culture makers from throughout our collection. Visitors can deepen their awareness of Indigenous values, voices, stories, and purchase art and souvenirs to remind them of their experiences. We work really closely with Red Cloud's Community Relations Department to provide a welcoming front door to people who visit Red Cloud and the rest of the reservation. We typically welcome 10 to 12,000 visitors each year and are second only to the Wounded Knee Massacre site for visitation on the reservation. And the Wounded Knee Massacre site is a site. It's not developed, and it probably will never be developed. That is not the wishes of the tribal members. So we do all this to offer education for the whole person and lifelong learning while embracing Lakota traditions of essential understandings while engaged in making and doing. We want to support the artists of the community with access to market at many different levels and access to an archive of cultural and contemporary arts that is available right here in the community. We work with 200 to 300 artists each year through our programs. So we work with often culturally connected artists and very kind of A-level kitchen table artists, people that are just making stuff through the gift shop, all culturally connected work through that program. So quill work, bead work, parfleche, quilts, bone pieces, things like that, horsehair. And then the gallery, of course, works with easel arts or gallery level arts. And so we're going to get back to our headliner, the annual art show. It's our Keystone program. It's why we exist. And, you know, we use that program to invite an international stage for the Native artists. It's the longest running Native art exhibition of its kind. And it gives budding and a highly acclaimed artists a venue to share, sell, and experiment with their work. For more than 50 years, the show has advanced hundreds of Native artistic careers. Artists like Don Montelo, Jackie Severe, Keith Braveheart, Chuck Wilcox, all participated in the art show early in their careers. I think Jackie and Keith particularly talk about it as the first art show that they ever entered and opened their eyes to actually being able to do that. And now they're both making a living doing that. And Don Montelo is the only artist that's entered every art show for 53 years. So, sometimes we really have had to twist his arm over the years, but he has always gotten it done. And, you know, these artists use the show to share their stories and perspectives. And the established artists use that show to explore things that aren't their bread and butter, but to see how new ideas or just might, you know, go over or just be able to do that, right? It gives them an opportunity to make and show that work. So last year around this time, you know, everything was, and the artists we work, we didn't know if we could open the art show. We didn't think we could open the art show. We were told we couldn't handle pieces for 10 days after they shipped in. We were told, you know, we couldn't invite anybody. But the artists, you know, they were kind of lobbying us. They'd lost all their typical means of making sales. All the art venues were closed down. The markets were closed down. And so they were like, you got to do this. And so we did. It kind of was a quick turnaround by the skin of our teeth. We tried to figure out how to do this whole virtual environment and how we could collect work and keep ourselves safe and keep the artists safe. And we actually hung the show in the gallery to provide, you know, I'd say now that we did that to provide a more dynamic presentation, and it really worked out that way. But I think we were kind of optimistic that we might be able to open the gallery sometime within the 10-week run. Yeah, we're still not open. So we hosted a Facebook Live event. We put all the work on our online shop. The online shop had previously been limited to work that's available through our gift shop program. But that is all different now. And we were kind of astounded about what happened. We had thousands of visitors from all over the world. Our sales were better than ever before. We have never sold an art show like that. We do ship all over the world, so that's a thing we can do. But it was really astounding, the people that were tuning in and listening to us and excited about the show. So typically the art show, we have 60 to 80 individuals that send artwork to our show every year. And each artist can enter up to 4 pieces. So we typically have about 200 original pieces that make up the exhibit. And after all the work arrives on site, we arrange for a jurying process. We typically pair arts professionals, one who is well-versed in current easel or gallery techniques, and another person who's very knowledgeable about culturally informed native arts. The judges award artists for their work in several categories, from adornment to visual sovereignty. Those categories have changed over the years so that they remain current to current thinking. But we invest about $11,000 a year annually in category and purchase awards for the artists. So, and we do really a very small markup. We do a 20% markup for those artists. So really we want to support the artists with that show, because, you know, the proceeds will also go to our program, but honestly, it's mostly about the artists, and that's a really unique thing we can do just because of the mission that we work for and the support that the Jesuits give us. So we will be hosting the 53rd annual show virtually again this year. We are still closed. The tribe has not opened the reservation to visitors at this time. They're not very strict about that, but being Red Cloud's position in the community, we will not open until the tribal council tells us that the reservation is open to visitors. Because really, during the summer, most of our visitors are tourists. Anyway, the live event will be at noon Mountain Time on June 5th. I don't know quite the details yet. I think it'll be a Zoom event that pushes to Facebook Live, just like this one. And at that time, we will make all the entries go live onto our both our website and the online store. So while we can't invite you to our galleries at this time, we hope that you will visit us virtually. You can do that through any of these websites. The redcloudart.show really tells you about the history of the art show, and we'll have a gallery component for the current show. Redcloudschool.shop is our gift shop site. So we are uploading inventory to that site all the time. Know that it's locally made and purchased directly from the artists, and that we are working on professional development for those artists when we do that work. Red Cloud School, visit redcloudschool.org is our tour site. So normally if you could take a tour of the campus, so we have campus tours where we have a staff, and typically in the summer we'll have recent grads as interns. And they will tell you about the historic campus, but they'll also tell you about the realities of life on the reservation now. So that's available. And then redcloudschool.org/museum is the big website that is just hugely deep with information about Red Cloud Indian School, Inc. And everything. It's got so much information. We're trying to redo the website to make it more manageable, so we don't have to have all these microsites. But That's not happening quite yet. So that's really pretty much what I have to say today. I will take questions if that's
Yeah,
okay.
we'll take questions in the chat. And really, thank you, Mary. That was fascinating. So anyone that has questions, submit them in the chat. John, if you have any comments.
Well, really, thank you so much, Mary, for giving the presentation. And one thing I wanted to mention too, that you were involved with, the guiding force, is the Horse Nation show that that the Art Museum also showed. And so I really appreciate you taking your time to give this presentation to us. And like, if anybody has any questions, you can ask or write in, as Carolyn said.
Yeah, if it's easier, you can unmute yourself and ask directly. All right, here's one from Karen. And let's see. Karen asks, when not in a pandemic, how many visitors do you get in the summer?
It's kind of a guess, okay, because our counting methods haven't always been very good.
We can relate to that.
We estimate about 10,000 people in the summer. We actually bought a laser counting system right before the pandemic, so we could get more accurate numbers. But we get visitors from all over the world. We always do a map where people can put their pins in it, and it's always amazing by the end of the year. But it's about 10,000 people.
But one thing, if you haven't been down to the Red Cloud show, when it opens up, you really should make the effort to get down there. It is a little far away and out of the way a bit, but it's a beautiful drive, and you should really visit the reservation and visit the Red Cloud if you get a chance.
Mm-hmm. Now, Lynette is asking, is it possible that the council will allow visitors later this summer? And if so, will your exhibit still be open for visitors, and which days and times typically?
We hope that they will open the reservation, but we don't know. We can't really predict. So we're preparing ourselves kind of either way. The gallery, we will hang the show in the gallery as usual. And the gift shop is all set up. So if we are able to open, we are typically open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. We're open 7 days a week. Hours tend to be 9 to 5, but a little shorter time on Sunday. So that's what we will hope for. We don't know. And Lynette has asked, is it only Pine Ridge artists who are eligible to display art at the center? The art show is actually open to Native artists 18 or older from anywhere in the United States and Canada. And I suppose Mexico, but we've had Canadian artists, but don't think we've ever had artists from Mexico enter. But it's open to everybody. The gift shop is actually open to artists from the Oceti Sakowin, so the Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota people. But in actuality, it's typically Lakota because that's our home community, right? So those are primarily the artists that we work with. Um,
And Norma is asking about directions for getting there. I could maybe find a map and pop it up, but
yeah, it's on, we're on Highway 18, just northwest of the village of Pine Ridge by about 3 miles. So you can, typically people come when they're in the hills. So they either come down from Hermosa on 40. I'm not sure if it's 40, but I'm not sure if it's a state highway or what it is. It goes through Red Shirt Table, which is a beautiful place to stop. You can see the Badlands and the Black Hills.
It is a beautiful drive.
But you take 40 down to 18, and then you go east on 18, about 15 miles from that junction. You can also come from Ulrichs on 18. I'm not sure the mileage from Ulrichs. And if you're coming from the east, it depends on which way you want to head down towards Highway 18, because you can head down from Kadoka, you can head down from the Badlands, down from the Badlands, you can go into Scenic and then go south on what is called Bombing Range Road, because it does go through the old World War II bombing range. But that takes you down through Wounded Knee, and then you go south from Wounded Knee to Highway 18, and you go west on 18 through the village of Pine Ridge and up to Red Cloud.
Were there any other questions?
not at this point, but
Well then, Mary, I want to again thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn about the Heritage Center and Red Cloud Art Show, and look forward to seeing you in the near future.
That would be great. That would be great. And I hope everybody comes when you have a chance or visit us online. It's really there's no program like this anywhere. So we're really lucky to have it and to have the support to keep it going for 53 years.
Thank you very much.